Now we're going to use completing the square to solve an equation, okay? This is not factorable here, so we're going to solve by completing the square. You could do the quadratic, and you'll see towards the end it's probably kind of the same thing. So we're going to complete this square, but first, remember completing the square, it's just an x squared and an x. So I'm going to bring the 11 over. X squared minus 6x equals 11. All right, so I'm going to complete the square here. So I'm going to add b halves squared, right? So I'm going to add -6 over 2 squared. Well, you can't just add one thing to one side, not to the other. You have to balance the equation. So here, I'm going to also add -3 squared, okay? So I'm adding the same thing to both sides to make it balance, and I'm completing the square. Because what will happen is this will become x minus 3, the quantity squared. That's the point of completing the square, is you can jump from here to here without doing any of the other work. That's why completing the square does give you an advantage in some problems. And this is going to equal 11 plus 9 is 20. Well, and you're not going to multiply this out, because then you're just going to get back to the end. What's the opposite of squaring something? Since we're squaring this whole term, we're going to square root both sides. We're going to square root both sides. So if x minus 3 is equal to the square root of 20. If we break that down, 4 times 5, it's plus or minus 2 radical 5. Right? Again, it's plus or minus. When you're solving an equation, whenever you take the square root, solve an equation, it's always plus or minus. We know that. We've done that plenty of times. So now I'm going to add 3 to both sides. X equals 3 plus or minus 2 radical 5. What does that look like? Yep, it looks like an answer when you do the quadratic equation. If you did this whole thing out by the quadratic equation, you would get this. Right? If we were in class, normally I would prove to you how it works using just the a, b, and c variables, but for now, you get the point. Solving by completing the square, get your x and x squared together, complete the square, balance the equation on both sides, solve it out, make sure here, don't forget this step right here, you're square rooting both sides. If you just multiply it out, it'll kind of defeat the purpose.